It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Thursday, Gary, how are you?
Well, I've been too busy. I've been too busy to even make my beer selection for this weekend when I take my annual Memorial Day trip to see Jerry and Mary.
Well, that's right.
Jerry, Mary, and Gary. Yes.
Are doing their annual get-together this weekend.
Yeah.
I've been too busy to select my beer for this morning's show.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
there's a couple of IPAs in the refrigerator
Okay,
out there.
you know what's interesting? You said that, what was that, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was? You said, there's beer in the fridge. I was like, what? I had seen them for a couple days.
Yeah, they've been in there a while.
They look like energy drinks because the can is colorful. It's an IPA. So, they got all the artwork, locally sourced and organic artwork. It's artwork. It's fair trade beer. It's I actually like IPAs, but they're a little liberal minded. I wonder why they're always going out of business. But here's the thing. I saw those cans in there and I thought they were energy drinks. I thought
so did I.
because the columnist crew is right here. Dan Bongino's crew is still at work, and the columnist show up and running and doing really great. And so I thought Jim and the crew had energy drinks in there because we've been out of company coffee for a minute. It's been a while since we've had any coffee in the break room. So I just naturally thought, there's some energy drinks. I didn't even really look at the cans other than the colorful, scheme on the outside. And so you told me their IPAs, their beer, and then I was like, well, who has beer in the fridge? Not even our sales department does that. They leave the building to go drink. So I don't know who has beer in the fridge. It's not mine.
So it's my annual trip to Two Frogs Brewery in Tarpon Springs. That
I'm going to have to go.
That does not produce. I mean, they have what you would view as regular exotic beer.
Yeah,
but they also have the chocolate coconut beer, which is a dessert. Right. Now the problem is when I go in there, I can only have one. Yeah. And you're saying because of the alcohol content?
No.
No, because of the carb content.
Yeah.
So many. I've never asked. I consider that a cheat weekend when I go visit them because the coconut the coconut chocolate beer there, and I don't know, it's been a winter beer. Sometimes it's not there when I get there Memorial Day. They do it a lot because really it's like a dessert. I view it as like a holiday dessert.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I think I was there in January one time a couple of years ago, and that's when I had it. I think one time they still had some left. I don't know if they're going to have it, but they have all these. Like they're malt liquid in some way, but you look at it and it's like, well, that's a blue drink. It's a beer.
Yeah,
really?
Right.
That's an orange mango drink. And I mean, not the little tinge of like mango,
right,
but like you're drinking a mango juice drink.
Right, yeah.
And so it's like for me it's like dessert. It's like dessert. It's not even
right.
I'm going to have a beer. It's like, wow. Okay, my taste buds are happy.
I went with some friends to Nick and Sam's, a really great steakhouse here in the Dallas area, and they served us what was described as a dessert wine, and it's one of those wines that it's not your normal that you would drink with dinner. It's an after dinner wine. I don't drink wine. I don't drink alcohol. Ever anymore. And this was, I don't know how many years ago, probably 10 years ago at least. And it was the first time I had had a dessert wine. And I was like, what's a dessert wine? Is it like, hey, can you bring some Cool Whip out with that? But it was very good, actually, the taste of it. And it's not one that you would drink like a normal wine. I mean, for me. I know nothing about wines. Nothing. I had a friend who was a winemaker, and he goes, I know nothing about wine. I was asking him all these questions. Well, what does it take to, and blah, blah. He goes, I know nothing about it. He goes, I know nothing about it. I started making it when I was in college, and he had this little small wine company that kept money coming in up until he passed away, actually, just a few years ago. And he goes, don't ask me. He goes, I'm far from the authority. I really have no clue. I know that ours turns out the way it turns out, and people like it, and they buy it, and that's all I know.
Well, this has got nothing to do with the fact that I found out today that originally when George went in for Cheers, he only had one word line, which was he was just going to be a character who walked in and tells Diane, beer. And that was his only line. And they saw him and the way he was, and they went, we think we can develop the character for you.
Yeah.
Which they did successfully. But this has nothing to do with because of the passing of George Wendt, and so we were talking about beer. It's about the fact I'm taking that trip. And
Jerry, Mary, and Gary.
Well, the thing is for me, and you know it, I don't go out and do anything.
Right. Yeah.
And
no,
I don't
you don't take vacations.
I don't mean that in a negative way.
Right.
I just don't go. I don't go out a lot. I mean,
right,
I just you know it as well as I do. The show dominates. I mean, you've got a family, but still, the show dominates everything.
Right.
And because of the time and sleeping twice and working out and just general stuff that I have to do, and my dad's. By the way, my dad's doing so well. It's made it so I can take the trip to Tampa this weekend. I'm in to see Dad next week, but he was up. He was up. Remember, I said he was bedridden a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago, and I thought this is not looking really good. He's back up, sitting up in a chair. Talked to him didn't talk to him yesterday because they didn't want me. He was eating, and they said no, he's eating. Don't bother him. But they sent me a picture sitting up in the chair now.
Oh man,
he's come back. Bessie's been since December, and I went, I can do that, and then I'll be back next weekend. But I've been visiting him almost. And over the summer, it's going to be almost every 2 weeks.
Wow.
I'm there. And so you don't have any time to do anything. So for me, I'll sit there and when I get there Friday afternoon, we'll go do a couple of things. And then Saturday, we'll do a couple of things. By Sunday, it's like, well, I need to get back. I need to get back to my regular lifestyle of because it's like I pack what for me would be a year of going out. To different places and restaurants and everything else.
Right.
And it's like,
wow,
this is exhausting. I need to get back to my regular life of just sleep and work.
Exactly.
But it's always fun because Jerry I met as a bill collector.
That's
and we'll have the talk again because I always tell him, I said, why do we become friends? Because when I got hired there, I was when I got hired at the bank, I was 18. It was in my first year of college, and I looked like I was 12. When I went in there, they thought I was like the young grandson of one of the executives just walking around because I looked that young. And Jerry was like, you just saw him. I mean, back then, he's sitting there. He's got the phone in one hand, and we were bill collectors. And he's got the phone in one hand. He's dressed impeccably. He's got the cigarette in the other hand. This is how long. This is 51 years ago.
Right.
And he's like, I'm like, wow, that guy has it all together. And I was this completely nerd guy. And he just, for some reason, and he just said, he goes, you were different. He goes, you were just different. And apparently he was, I don't know if that was a compliment or not. Apparently it was because we hung out together and we became best friends. And if you saw both of us, you'd go, what is that guy doing with him? What's that little nerdy guy doing with the cool guy over there?
Right. Yeah.
And so, that was, it's turned into a wonderful friendship, over a half a century. Yeah. And so it's like every year, sometimes we try to do it twice a year, but things, life just gets in the way. But it's really just, it's little over about 2 days and 5 hours that I'm there.
Yeah. All of our time off, you go to see your family. Yeah. With the exception of this trip.
With the exception of this trip, and I've made plans to take a 2-day trip to go back to Navarre this year, Navarre Beach, Florida, where I used to live. I want to see what it's like and hopefully be able to hang out with a couple of the radio people I used to work with. I've always wanted to take a trip. I haven't been there since '88, and I was like, you got to take one not that it's a bucket list thing, but it was
Yeah,
like
right.
because I don't do bucket lists. I don't sit there and go, I need to do a bucket list thing
Yeah.
before this. It was just like, no, I want to go back and see what it's like. So I've planned that. So really, as I told you, that will be my first 2-day vacation, which isn't like visiting family and friends. It's actually going to be a 2-day vacation.
Right.
And I was going to make it 3 days, and I went, nah, 3 days is way too long for me.
Yeah.
It's like after 2 days, I'm like, all right, get back. You and I talk about this. I was a beach bum when I lived there.
Yeah.
When I lived there, I mean, it was what do you call it? Body surfing and what do you call it? The wind with the wind boards and Hobie Cat stuff and just hanging around the beach and the Gulf. For 3 years, and it's like I don't think I could do that these days.
Yeah.
It's just my mind is just in too many different places where if I can sit in I can't sit in a beach for a day without getting antsy. And I like that.
Yeah.
It's not
I
something
don't
that
like
bothers
sitting,
me.
I don't like sitting still.
Yeah,
My wife is the same way. I just don't like sitting still. We go down to the beach every year, the week of Independence Day, and hang out. Some of the grandkids come down. Some of our adult kids come down or not. I mean, it just, depends. We go down there. We stay in a house on the beach, and we just hang out. But for me, I mean, I will. The thing is I will, but I'd rather be up moving. I'd rather be up moving around. The kids especially love to go to the beach. I mean, they love to go down. I set up a big tent, and we have everything we need right there on the beach. But the moment that I'm done setting up, it's like, okay, what else is there to do?
And the other reason I want to go back is I want to visit the gravesite of my former partner, my radio partner when I was working in Fort Walton Beach, Pensacola, Mark Stone, the late Mark Stone, who died in 1988. And I was there for the funeral and everything else, but I've always wanted to go back. And it's just a few miles from the airport there at Eglin Air Force Base up in Niceville. And I just want to go and see the gravestone and put my phone on there and play on his gravestone and play Van Halen's Jump, which he loved. He just loved. He was a news guy and a rock singer at night. He was so talented. I was the 98 pound again. He was a 98 pound. I was a 98 pound weakling, and he was like Adonis on the beach. He just was. He just had everything, and that destroyed a lot of us because he died at such a young age. He was so vibrant with life and everything else. So that I want to do, but just in general, the other reason I want to do it, I remember when I went for that job interview back in February of '83 to work, and there I am at a hotel in Fort Walton Beach, and I'd never been to the the Gulf before like that, and I remember walking out, and the water was it was a beautiful night, and the beautiful white sand, and the water's coming in, and I sat there for about a half hour, and I said, well, I'm going to take a look at this because I might never see it again, and a month later I was working there.
Yeah,
but I just actually a beach at night to me is better than a beach at day.
Yeah,
I just love it. I love a beach at night. So,
yeah.
A couple of days. So really the first vacation.
Yeah.
Call it the first. Because visiting friends and family can be considered a vacation, but this is actually the first time I'm going.
Yeah.
It won't be to visit family and friends. So
yeah.
Hopefully I'll get to hang out with some of my old employees that work with me. But
I'm really glad to hear your dad's doing better. That's great news.
Yeah. When I talked to him the other day, 99%, we talk about the whole cognitive thing.
Right.
Regarding
Biden.
with the former president, and we say, look, it's obvious. The changes. Everybody knows. It's not like there's a debate when his cognitive abilities come back, and then
far too many of us have seen it. Most everybody has some experience with it, and that's just the case, And it's really good to hear that. My dad, by the way, today turns. And just as of just a few minutes ago, turns 92.
Oh,
yeah!
Happy birthday, Eric's dad.
Yeah, it's so my dad. I was gonna get him a shirt, WWJD, because his name is Jimmy, not James, not Jim, Jimmy. If you've known him long enough, you can get away with Jim, but it's Jimmy. And his legal name is Jimmy. So and it says WWJD, and then on the back, what would Jimmy do?
Oh, I love it.
And I thought to myself, well, I don't know, because I mean, it's a good joke. I think it's a nice joke. I believe God has a sense of humor, to play on the WWJD. What would Jesus do? But what would Jimmy do? I think it's a good joke, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about ordering that shirt for him. If I don't get it for him for this weekend, then I'll get it for him for Father's Day coming up. But he's, as with you and most everybody, he is my true north. Along with my mom, my parents are my true north. My dad is, 2-time war veteran. As we head into Memorial Day weekend, it never escapes me that my father was able to come home, and I have friends that I grew up with, a couple of friends whose dads did not come home from Vietnam. My dad did. He came home. He was in the Navy first and went at the age of 18 and went to Korea, but came home from the Vietnam War. I was 4 years old. I had no idea. I thought overseas was the name of another country. My mom just kept saying, he's overseas, he's overseas, he's overseas. But so it's, for me, it's one of those things, especially because his birthday is near Memorial Day. Those two just kind of go hand in hand. I'm always mindful of that for that we should honor those who have fallen, and that's what we'll be doing this weekend. And also on Saturday, a cookout in my dad's honor, and it will be a lot of fun.
We got a great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Logging miles during the hot summer months can put a serious strain on you and your truck's health. Did you know pollutants and allergens in the air outside can enter your cab through the HVAC system without you even cracking a window? That's why it's important to check those cabin air filters. Not only do dirty cabin air filters contaminate the air you breathe, they can also cause major damage to HVAC components like blower motor resistors and AC compressors. Have your cabin air filter serviced if you notice less airflow than usual coming from the interior vents. This is a common sign that your filters are at the end of their life cycle. Breathe easy when the air in your cab is fresh.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. There's the headline: last-minute tweaks to the tax cut and spending bill. We'll get to that coming up following the bottom of the hour. Somebody does need to check on James Carville.
What the hell?
No, I'm sorry, but you at least have to question his cognitive abilities. For what does he view as the major problem with the Democrats? How radical they are.
They've been.
The radical transgender movement, the identity politics, just how insane they are.
Yeah.
Right? Because he said it.
Right.
Carville said it. Yesterday, I would back AOC for president. He doesn't make any sense anymore. He says one thing, and that's why I said, is he having cognitive problems? Does he remember what he said the day before? You and I brought this up because he'll sit there and say, identity politics, the biggest problem. I'd endorse the person who really promotes identity politics more than anything.
Yeah.
Nothing he says makes any sense anymore.
And in part for the sake of identity politics, he would support her. He's doing exactly what he says the party shouldn't be doing.
No, it's somebody check on James.
Wow.
Mary, don't let him talk until he figures out, she's a Republican.
Right.
Until he figures out how to have some kind of consistency in his message.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So we've got to go after the Babylon Bee.
All right.
Because the Babylon Bee needs to be criticized because they had an accurate headline.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's not allowed with the Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
Congress split between those who want to spend a ridiculous amount and those who want to spend even a more ridiculous amount.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. It's funny, but it's also sad.
Yeah.
Way to go, Babylon Bee. You've done it again, pointing out the truth. the most accurate headlines in America.
So from thehill.com, I haven't seen you've seen an update that they passed the bill yet because it says House Republican leadership on Wednesday night unveiled last-minute tweaks to President Trump's tax cut and spending priorities bill. This is from thehill.com, including increasing the state and local SALT tax deduction and speeding up the implementation of new Medicaid work requirements. The changes made in the legislation, called a manager's amendment, were revealed after late-stage negotiations between blue state Republicans and hardline conservatives. Mm-hmm. Don't call them hardline conservatives.
No.
In the House Freedom Caucus, who had been withholding support for the legislation, GOP leaders plan to bring the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that's in quotes, that's the official name of the bill, to a floor vote as soon as it clears the House Rules Committee, either late Wednesday night, which is still there on the West Coast, or in the wee hours Thursday morning, but they're talking Eastern time. Just before the text was unveiled, conservative holdouts emerged from a series of meetings signaling they were ready to support the bill, assuming the laundry list of demands they had negotiated with leadership was reflected in the amendment.
It did pass the Budget Committee.
The Budget Committee, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the Rules Committee. The Budget Committee was first.
Right.
It did pass the Rules Committee. So it advanced with an 8-4 vote.
That's right. I knew that. I saw that already.
Yeah, before 11 p.m.
Yeah, I saw that.
As they mentioned, raising basically the SALT deductions cap by 400%. So that's going up to $40,000.
Right. With the text lays out $40,000 deduction for individuals making $500,000 or less. The same agreement that lawmakers struck with Mike Johnson on Tuesday night. The initial version of the bill included a $30,000 deduction cap for individuals making $400,000 or less, a proposal that SALT Republicans vocally rejected. It also speeds up implementation of new Medicaid work requirements to no later than December 31st, 2026, rather than January 1st, 2029, a change hardline conservatives were seeking. Again, stop calling them hardline conservatives. Mm-hmm. This is not a hardline conservatives bill in any way. The manager's amendment does not, however, include some of the more aggressive Medicaid reform that some Freedom Caucus members were calling for. In lieu of those alterations, Trump is likely to sign a flurry of executive orders to address some of the matters requested by hardliners that were left on the cutting room floor. Johnson hinted at the gambit after a meeting with the White House on Wednesday. You will see how all of this is resolved, but I think we can resolve their concerns, and it will probably be some combination of work by the president in these areas as well as Congress, or maybe executive orders relating to some of these issues in the near future, and this is a commitment the president has made. Some of the changes are about more style than substance. It renames mega accounts, a pilot savings account program for children that would get an automatic $1,000 boost for every baby born from 2025 to 2028 as Trump accounts. The other changes address lower profile sticking points, such as eliminating plans to make cuts to federal employee retirements. The manager's amendment strikes a provision to have employee pensions be calculated by an average of the top 5 years of pay rather than the top 3, while changes revealed earlier in the week ditched a plan to require federal employees pay more of their federal retirement plans. There are a number of changes to the energy and environmental portions of the bill as well. It speeds up the rollback of tax credits for climate-friendly, remember this is thehill.com writing this, for climate-friendly energy sources. handing a win to hardliners who lamented that they were allowed to remain on the books for too long. The prior bill phased out the credit for projects that began producing electricity after 2028 with a partial credit available up to 2032. Under the new version, there's no partial credit, and any projects that begin producing electricity after 2028 will not be eligible at all to get the credit. Projects will need to begin construction within 60 days of the bill's enactment. It still is going to have a rush of people to do that then. That's the problem with it.
Yeah.
A rush of renewable energy subsidies now. It'll just accelerate people jumping in to do it because the money's going to go away.
Right.
Republicans have also stripped the controversial provision added during the amendment process. It would have allowed the sale of certain public lands in Utah and Nevada, a rare victory for environmentalists who otherwise hammered the legislation. Now, the problem there is they were trying to sell certain public lands to do what? So they don't have to borrow as much.
Yeah, you're patchworking.
You're patchworking to do it. So what the final score will be on this? Now, I saw the Wall Street Journal. They had a thing saying that we saw just earlier in the week it would raise the baseline debt over 10 years by $5 trillion. I saw Wall Street Journal put 3.3. I don't know where those cuts are. I didn't see anything about new cuts.
Right, that brings it down from $5 trillion to 3.3.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I didn't see that. So we'll wait to see what the full score of it is.
Right.
Remember, so much of the budget though is based on what actual economic growth is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll talk about it wasn't a debate, but it was going back and forth. I saw CNBC talking about the stock market and the bond market, for example, which skyrocketed yesterday.
Right.
As we all, as if you're paying attention, you know. And the Wall Street Journal had an article saying it's not the tax cuts doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not even what the projected deficit would be. This is about the worry about economic growth, where CNBC was saying, well, this is all due to the worries about the debt. Well, I think it's all combined.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's all combined. One is related to the other. If we don't have economic growth, if that's the fear that the economic growth is not what it's going to be, that's going to affect the long-term debt. One relates to the other.
Right.
If you have everything is based, well, I don't know. It was based, we'll see what it finally is. It was based on 2.6% growth. Well, we haven't had an average of 2.6% growth.
Right.
So if you don't have 2.6% growth, if it's only 2.3 or 2 or 1.94 or whatever it would be over the period of 10 years, you could skyrocket the debt.
Yep.
Because the projections for economic growth are always higher. I've never seen them pin them lower than what they actually are in reality.
Well, that's it. We talk about certain baseline things. I think everything should be taken as if there is zero growth. And by the way, there could be less than zero growth. You can have negative growth. You can go into recessions. It happens. But I think on the scoring of it, it's start from here. Assume zero growth. And see if you can get your spending in order. I know I'm talking unicorns now. It's clear. I thought during the whole Doge thing, it was no longer a unicorn, that we had actually found a real unicorn. I thought that for about 10 minutes. But we haven't. It's over. But if you're going to have a standard, assume no growth. And that's the thing and they have to factor it in, but it's always factored high. Well, if we just, assuming the very normal 9.7% growth. Why not go 9.7%? You can score it the way you want to. You can score it how you like, even if you're just going slightly above what the average growth has been. You're out of range.
Well, when you had who was it yesterday? Oh, the head of the OMB, who said, "Well, we expect we're going to get 3% growth."
right.
Well, that's pretty optimistic. Remember, we went back to I remember the show, and I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was the Obama White House saying, well, all the numbers are wrong because we projected it was like 4% growth or something, or between 4 or 5% growth, and we went, stop it.
Yeah,
it's wrong. The budget's going to be balanced because we're going to have 4 to 5% growth. Yeah. You've got the Trump administration saying they hope it'll be 3%, then there'll be no problem and no debt at all.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you've got a long way. I think they projected the projected GDP for this year, I think, is what, 1.94.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you're below the 2.6. So if you don't get it this year, you're already in a hole when it comes to the deficit. Because just for people to know, when there's more economic growth, when the GDP is growing faster and hits a certain mark, that means there's more tax revenue produced as the economy expands.
Right.
It's that simple.
Even on my scoring thing, and I know it's ridiculous to say, well, it should, you can't base anything on 0% growth. Actually, you could. Again, worst case scenario, right? But because it's not, the average isn't 0%. Okay. Then take the average and tone it down by 0.5 percentage point, right? And start there, because it assumes growth, but it plans for the worst. This is how people save and become financially responsible. But fiscally responsible, when you're spending other people's money, is out the window. Republicans, Democrats, independents like Bernie, all of them. Remember, he's an independent. I think that's why he slipped and said the other day on the Democrats are, going, I think you're true. That's why I'm an independent. But that's the thing. When you start it, you should adjust your baseline for below average at the very least. Go below average and score it from there. And when there is a surplus,
you look like geniuses.
You look like a hero.
Yeah.
You're that kind of person that sits in the exit row on a plane. A hero. Heard a comedian say that the other day. You're sitting first class. That's nothing. Mike Vecchione. You're sitting in first class. No, you're not better than me. I'm sitting in the exit row. I'm a hero.
Well, somebody who has so many miles that I get upgraded all the time to first class.
Yeah.
Many times the exit row is actually better. There's much more leg room.
More room. Yeah.
There's much more leg room.
Yeah. I've had dance parties in the exit row.
The what?
I've had dance parties in the exit row.
Well, I've been upgraded to first class, and sometimes I'm giving my seat away, especially if there's a soldier in there.
Yeah.
If I get upgraded, and I'll sit there if I can get an exit row seat, because the exit row seat is just like, and a lot of times I don't want to eat in the plane. I want to sleep. I can sleep on a plane, and sleep is more valuable than for me, a lot of times, than a first class meal. But that's what happens when you fly all the time. You get all these benefits.
Oh, yeah.
I get all these benefits.
Right.
And they're all for free.
Of course. Yeah.
All right, I didn't even buy that one.
Right, exactly.
No, it's because you fly all the time.
Yeah.
It's
like
all
free drinks at a casino. Yeah, they're all free. Sure they are.
I've never taken advantage of the free. I mean, I've had a drink on the plane.
I don't even know if they still. On a plane? The free drinks on a plane?
Well, I actually get, if because my status is so high, if I sit in a regular seat, like if I sit in the exit row seat, I get a free drink.
Oh, okay.
If I want one. And I don't mean, I mean alcoholic drink if I want
Right,
one.
yeah.
It actually comes with it. But
Yeah.
But I rarely do. I never take advantage of it. Like, all right, let me have 10 on this flight.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember.
Well,
I may have had a beer on a flight one time.
Gary, are you an alcoholic?
Right.
No, it's free.
Exactly. I always have to get in a rental car when I land. So
yeah, that's the other thing
I'm
too.
not gonna drink on the plane.
That's the other thing. It's like
walk up to the rental counter.
Would you like to have a couple glasses of wine?
Yeah.
No, I got to go to the rental guy, and I know
exactly.
And the thing is, I'm in Buffalo all the time. I know the guy now.
Yeah.
I've been there so many times where it's like.
Yeah.
Your eyes are glassy. You need this is the breathalyzer section over here of Avis Budget.
Right, and you just ordered a beer from us, not a car, so you probably need to sit down. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric and I all excited about the excitement here in the studio about the new Bruce Springsteen anti-Trump album that he's coming out with.
Yeah, I can't wait.
We'll have some discussion on that.
Yeah, Born to Lose. It's going to be a great album. It's going to be. I don't like Do you need a lozenge?
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
So there's two of the Springsteen stories here, all right?
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen releases EP featuring anti-Trump rants from his UK concert. And then, this may be my favorite one, though.
Yeah.
This may be my favorite headline of the day from Breitbart.
Okay.
The last headline I read was from Fox. This is from Breitbart. Stephen Colbert. Trump attacking Bruce Springsteen is like attacking America itself.
Is it really? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, let's keep in mind, Born in the USA was a war protest song. You know, everybody does the I don't think that comment was based on the song Born in the USA, but everybody gets that wrong, you know, where there even some Republicans used Born in the USA, remember, at campaign stops?
Yep.
It's like, hold on a second. You might want to review that if you know the lyrics. But it's it's laughable. I just love the Todd Rundgren story. Recently, he did an interview, and it's like, oh, the only reason one of the big reasons I accepted the producer gig on Bat Out of Hell for Meatloaf was because I was looking at the Springsteen thing going, really? The slick back hair and the T-shirt and the blue jeans? Are we going back to the 50s? What's going on? And I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, and you know, the anti-Trump, we go back to the Dixie Chicks. For those under the age of 50, the Dixie Chicks.
The Chicks.
Yeah, that were they can't call them. And by the way,
the Chicks.
We said, no, you took the wrong turn. You can't say chicks anymore. Trust me, chicks hate that. And that
was so funny. The Chicks. You can't do that. You
can't say that because what happens is the chicks start crying, their makeup starts running, it becomes a mess, and that whole thing of the anti. By the way, one of the most mundane things ever said. They were somewhere in Europe. I think they were in England somewhere, and we're not. I think they said something to the extent of, "We're not happy.
We're embarrassed by."
Yeah,
Bush or something,
we're not happy to be from. We're not proud to be from the same state as George W. Bush. They're from Texas. That if you don't know, and so by the way, a very talented trio, very very talented trio. They were crushing it, and then all of a sudden it went away. Well, and then they blamed big corporations for shutting them down and the whole thing. Well, the way it works is, your fans respond, and if your fans don't want to listen to your music, then they're not going to be there. And it doesn't matter how many liberal fans you have. But if your fans don't want to listen, if they're offended by that for whatever reason, again, I think it's a kind of a mundane thing. It's a yawner, And then Toby Keith after that came out with the whole shut up and sing thing. And we were like, no, don't shut up and sing. No. This has been going on for a long, long time. This isn't new. Attention, Bruce Springsteen. People were doing it before you. And I mean before you ever hit. Before the early 70s, we had protest songs. Now, back then, they were against big government, and you guys are promoting big government. There is a difference, a huge difference in the direction. But nonetheless, there have been protest songs before, so you doing a protest album sounds like you're a whiner. Sounds like you're somebody who needs to go home and have a good cry.
Well, for me, I think he's, again, things are different than they were in the late 60s, early 70s, and even the protests that we would, see when, for example, you're at war.
Yeah.
When we go back to the Iraq War and Green Day and all that, but when you look at now, I mean, it was like even when grunge came out in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And you and I probably had the same thought, which was, what's the problem?
Yeah. Why are you
too much opportunity? What is
teens look very angst driven.
So, I mean, you're angry about what?
Right.
What is it that you were angry about?
Here's the thing. Nobody is angry for that long. That's the thing I have with grunge. It went on too long. Do one angry album, like Alanis Morissette, and get it over with. Get it out. From there, move on. Quit your whining.
You can do one Rage album.
One. You get one.
You can't do...
and make it a good one.
Right, every album can't be Rage. But the problem was, for example, as we always talk about with Rage Against the Machine, if you paid attention to where they stand politically, they're actually raging for the machine.
Yes.
They want government dominant over your life and in a Marxist socialist setup.
And they're helping build the machine.
Yes.
They're part of the machine.
And so we are the last ones to say, shut up and sing because we've got too much enjoyment when they decide not to shut up and just sing.
Right.
It's wonderful.
We love the late Toby Keith. I love a lot of his music, but when that thing came out, we were like, whoa. No. Don't shut up and sing. Get out there and sing your heart out. Be angry if you want to.
Yeah.
That's the thing is that I saw something the other day about Nirvana and that whole thing and how, the angst thing was really there, not necessarily the driver with them, and
Grohl said it. We didn't consider ourselves grunge.
Right.
We just wanted to play good music.
Right.
And he always says it. We like the Beatles.
Yeah.
He always throws that in there. We weren't grunge. We weren't angry. We wanted to produce good music. I mean, there might have been things that every teenager complains about. He goes, but that wasn't. We just wanted to put together good songs.
Right.
And he goes, we love the Beatles. He always throws that in like we love the Beatles at the end.
Right. Yeah.
And but the entire movement at that point. Now I will admit that when after Kurt Cobain committed suicide, and it was, the narrative was out there, and who knows why somebody actually does it, but the narrative was out there that he was just afraid of becoming too much of a success. That was like, really?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam talked about one time. He was like, for the second album or something, or after the second album, I went and lived in my truck because I needed to be hungry again. I thought, well, yeah, but you got $10 million in the bank.
Yeah, you don't have to be
It doesn't
hungry.
work that way.
There's a whole different psychology.
Well, because if it comes from a natural place, it does come from experience, but the experience never goes away. That's the thing, is that the driver, if you're in a creative setting, then there may be a muse in your life, but trying to recreate that particular setting of the moment falsely isn't going to be that muse. I don't know how that would work.
Well, today, Eddie Vedder would just be considered having a very healthy 24-hour fast.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be a health behavior. But the whole thing with Springsteen, I just laughed because I thought to myself, nobody cares except the media.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares. Nobody cares what Springsteen says.
Right.
I don't care.
Right. Well, no, I mean, the thing is your fans are there for the music. You may have some of your fans that agree with you. They're still there for the music. That's all that is.
Yeah.
And you've got a massive core following in terms of your music. When you put it in your head that means that you're going to change the future, change elections by doing this or whatever. Again, it seems contrived. This is the Eddie Vedder version.
I like
of,
Eddie Vedder.
Eddie Vedder.
Eddie Vedder.
The Eddie Vedder version of living in your truck.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. It sounds like contrived anger. You're a guy who's worth, I don't know, a couple $100 million probably. And you made it big by pretending, to still be the working class guy. Remember the Jeep commercial that he did? You don't have to do that. If you're from a working class background, again, you already have that muse. But then also thinking that the status where you are means that you're a kingmaker. That belongs to no one. It belongs to no one. It's been going on for a long time, but these days it's far too contrived and based in lies. Well, if you look at the hippies and the way they were doing this, again, promoting, the opposite of
distrust
big government.
Of big government, right? Exactly.
Which is very healthy if you think about it. We should all ask questions all the time, and we should all, to keep the debt down, and there should always be that more libertarian approach to it, and that's what you saw. A lot of it was very liberal, but they were not calling for big government.
Well, and the whole concept of free love, we all know that was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to cost you.
Love is going to cost you. There is no such thing as free love.
It's going to cost you.
That was a concept that they miserably failed in.
I have the receipts.
That was due to the emotion and hormones of youth, the belief that love is free. No, believe me. They all know now, though.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone through life. Yeah. If they're still alive, they've gone through life. They know. And the one thing we really screwed up on is the whole free love thing. Ain't nothing free. But when I saw Colbert, for example, Trump attacking Bruce Springsteen is like attacking America itself. I mean, the delusion of self-importance of the message of a rock star promoting something to the right now, as Springsteen did, and this particular situation is so overblown by the left. Because I tell you right now, nobody cares.
Right.
Maybe a few Springsteen fans care about it.
Yeah.
But
they might agree with you, but they're still there for the music.
Right. They hated Trump anyway.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is if you said, well, I'm going to do a bunch of stops, and they're all just going to be me ranting, and I'm not going to play any music. Your core base would go, yeah, okay, never mind. They're there for the music. They're there for the music that you made. And, even if you want to talk about Born in the USA, it's like, again, a lot of people took that the wrong way, didn't really listen to the lyrics. But it was a hit. It was a huge, huge hit record. It came from somewhere. Well, when you have to go out of your way and announce that you're doing it, that's the thing. If you have to announce, I'm doing an anti-Trump record, sorry. If you do an album and it happens to have a protest song on it, that's one thing. I'm doing an entire EP. By the way, you couldn't do a full album? Are you lazy? Are you getting too old? What's going on here? It just sounds, again, contrived. It sounds like it doesn't come from a genuine place.
Coming up following the break here, the information on that breaking news story, 2 Israeli diplomats shot, killed during an event at Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. They were shot at close range. Fox News reporting that a man was detained who allegedly yelled, "Free, free Palestine." So this thing's going to get, you're going to see more and more on this particular story throughout the night and into tomorrow, and we'll keep you up on the latest. Coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operator Mike Nichols is leased to Wayne Transports, pulling in their dry bulk division today after decades in business for himself. Speaking to Overdrive's Todd Dills recently, Nichols offered a word of advice to any company driver planning to make the switch to running as an owner-operator, unless you've got access to family money or otherwise independently wealthy, he noted.
As a company driver, you need to be thinking about startup capital and down payment, and I would just say that you need to treat that like you would firewood. Save what you think you might need and then triple it, if not quadruple it. And you'll be thankful that you did.
You'll be glad you did. That is, not just given favorable loan terms with a good down payment. Inevitably with trucking, you'll get hit with a breakdown and huge repair bill, or another of those unforeseen events. You'll need that reserve cash to cover it and avoid taking on debt or going out of business. Hear more from Overdrive's 2024 Trucker of the Year contenders at overdriveonline.com/PIB.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we'll try to get some audio from some of the press conferences that were held here in the last hour or so on the breaking news. A pro-Palestinian man, this is reading this from Fox News, pro-Palestinian man has been detained. 2 Israeli diplomats were shot and killed during an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. A pro-Palestinian man is in custody for allegedly killing 2 Israeli embassy staff members who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night. The Metropolitan Police Department said during a news conference that officers responded to multiple calls of a shooting near the museum at 9:08 p.m. on Wednesday. When authorities arrived at the scene, a man and a woman were found unconscious and not breathing despite life-saving efforts. Smith said both were pronounced dead. The 30-year-old man, identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, is believed to have committed the act alone and is in custody, adding that his gun was also recovered. That's according to the Washington police. Smith said the preliminary investigation shows Rodriguez was allegedly observed pacing back and forth outside the museum before he approached a group of 4 people exiting the building, including the 2 victims, and began shooting. He then entered the museum where he was detained by event security. While in custody, he yelled, "Free, free Palestine." Mayor Bowser described the shooting as horrific and assured the community there was no active threat. She said the city will not tolerate violence or hate. We will not tolerate any acts of terrorism. Bowser said we will not tolerate anti-Semitism. A spokesperson for the Israeli embassy in the capital confirmed to Fox News that the 2 diplomats were shot at close range while at an event hosted by the American Jewish Committee taking place at the museum. The spokesperson said, "We have full faith in law enforcement authorities for both the local and federal levels to apprehend the shooter and protect Israel's representatives and Jewish communities throughout the United States." The event at the museum was for young Jewish professionals who work in foreign policy, in foreign policy, and had a panel discussion focused on finding humanitarian solutions for Gaza. Fox News has learned. The two victims were dating, apparently, according to the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and on the verge of engagement. They said the man had just purchased a ring with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. So this is going to bring back again the whole anti-Semitism thing.
Right.
And how the left has embraced it. It's going to now rise back to the top again.
It sure is.
As an issue.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just chatting about the breaking news from D.C. Two Jewish Israeli diplomats were murdered by a terrorist yelling "Free Palestine, Free Palestine" outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. tonight, allegedly. That's, and I say allegedly because we know they were killed, but murdered is actually a charge, and so before they're actually charged, everything is alleged. So, but that's what happened. You had the Israeli ambassador was there talking about it, and he, after greeting, saying hello to the mayor and saying hello to Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was there. By the way, Kristi Noem also put out a statement from Homeland Security. Here's what he had to say about the victims and the shooting.
The couple that was gunned down tonight in the name of Free Palestine. It's a young couple about to be engaged. The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. They were a beautiful couple who came to enjoy an evening in Washington's Cultural Center. I will say this: we are a resilient people. The people of Israel are resilient people, and the people of the United States of America are resilient people. Together we won't be afraid. Together we'll stand, and we're going to overcome moral depravity of people who think that they're going to achieve political gains through murder. On the way in, Ms. Bondi was kind enough to hand me the phone. On the other line was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who told me that his administration is going to do everything it can possibly do to fight and end anti-Semitism and the hatred that's being directed, the demonization and delegitimization of the State of Israel. Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, will stand together tall and firm, and we will confront this moral depravity without fear and with determination. And now we'll turn to taking care of the families of these two victims. And again, I think the American administration and the city of Washington and the law enforcement officers who are on this case are going to get to the bottom of it and bring justice to this city and to the people of Washington and the United States and the people of Israel who are here feeling confident and safe in the city of Washington and around the United States of America.
That's Israeli Ambassador Leitner speaking yesterday after the absolutely horrendous alleged murder of two Israeli diplomats by a lone gunman, pro-Palestinian man accused right now of killing. A pro-Palestinian man is in custody after allegedly killing two Israeli embassy staff members who were leaving an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department Chief Pamela Smith said during a news conference the officers responded to multiple calls of the shooting near the museum around 9:08 p.m. When authorities arrived, the victims were already unconscious, not breathing. They were pronounced dead. The man in custody, 30-year-old man identified as Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, believed to have committed the act alone and is in custody, Smith said, adding that his gun was also recovered. He might have acted alone. Don't know if there was a conspiracy to get to that point. And after he entered the museum, when he allegedly killed the two people, he was detained by event security. While in custody, he yelled, "Free, free Palestine." So there's where we are right now. You know, we talked about, you know, what happened after October 7th. We talked about the left and their defense of Hamas and the number of young people, mostly liberal in this country, that support the brutality of Hamas. We've talked about the Democrats who have enabled Hamas, enabled anti-Semitism, been anti-Semitic themselves at times, and we look at it and we say, what do you expect when you practice identity politics, when the Democratic Party has institutionalized identity politics? They admit it.
Yeah.
Identity politics is judging people as a group and not as individuals.
Right.
At that point, you become a racist when you do that. That's what racists do. We know that.
Yep.
When you are involved in the radical transgender movement, the misogyny, the hatred towards women, as we've seen, the brutality, the threats, the intimidation. When you embrace identity politics, when you embrace racism and misogyny, how far is it? How far of a leap is it to anti-Semitism?
Right.
It's not a big leap.
Right. Well, and we've also talked about, you know, and I'll be interested to see what the response is by the leftist radicals in terms of the suspect here. Because the leftist radicals, when it comes to the killing of a healthcare CEO, say the shooter is a hero. Well, this is one of those causes that they have been very vocal about, their anti-Semitism, pro-Hamas cause. Are they going to try and turn, are the radicals going to try and turn the suspect in this case into a hero? This is the world we live in. I'm not making this up out of nothing. When Brian Thompson was murdered in cold blood, the suspect became a hero to the left. The radicals are very vocal about how they feel and have been very vocal leading up to this event that happened just hours ago about their anti-Semitism and their pro-Hamas stance. This is who they are. This is what they're willing to do and how far they're willing to go. And I would expect nothing less from the radical left than the making of a hero out of this suspect.
Yeah. We've seen, you know, we remember the entire defund the, all of it melds together. You know, the whole defund the police, let the criminals loose. The criminals are victims. You know, you saw, for example, in L.A. now where they're like the new district attorney.
Yeah.
We can't allow this, the law breaking and the homelessness and what's going on. We just can't do this anymore. We can't do it. Everything was about not actually recognizing who the true victims are of crime, but recognizing the criminals as victims, recognizing terrorists as victims.
Right.
Believing in identity politics, the racism of identity politics, the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, the insanity of anti-Semitism, the evil insanity of anti-Semitism that exists and has been mainstreamed by the left in the United States. It is absolutely reprehensible. And the Democrats that are bluntly anti-Semitic.
We have seen how many of these radical protests since October 7th.
A ton.
So now
to the point where, I mean, the rot and the filth of anti-Semitism to the highest levels of Ivy League schools in this country.
Yeah. Fighting those same institutions, fighting for the right to public money in order to maintain their stance.
Yeah.
This has to end, but it won't. The radicals are going to be here. This is, again, what I described after October 7th as very clear picture. On one side, the radicals. On the other side, everybody else. You stand on one side or the other. You stand on one side or the other.
Yeah.
You may not be vocal about it, but your convictions stand with one or the other. And this is what we see. This is the kind of radical behavior that you, again, I don't know how you warn against it. I don't know how you prevent it when some radical decides they're going to take matters into their own hands and murder people. But we certainly cannot allow these radical, massive radical protests that quite often themselves become, while they may not include murder, they become violent. Destruction of property. Yet institutions want to, appease all day long and be a part of that entire process and charge way too much for tuition. At the same time, I don't even know how these Ivy League colleges are still around. Your name is gone. Your prestige. Anybody who gives any of these institutions prestige, sorry, that's over.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. When does it become all right? You're the, not only do you accept anti-Semitism, you produce anti-Semitism.
Right. It's that's your cause. It's not about the degrees or learning something that applies to life. It is about creating a new set of radicals through indoctrination.
Yeah.
The answer is no, and should be no from everybody, unless you're a radical. Again, there's two sides. Radicals, and on the other side, everybody else.
I believe you said that on October 8th.
Yep. And that was the line, and it is always going to be the line. And I was proven right by the radicals over and over again. And people, every day, rank and file people, you have to decide which side you're going to be on, because we can't, as a society, tolerate this kind of hatred.
86690 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, more of the blowback on Jake Tapper's book. You saw Jake Tapper was on. We'll have the audio. He was on MSNBC with Morning Joe and told Morning Joe, you were one of the guys that he picked out because you were saying, well, there's scuttlebutt out there that, that Biden's cognitive problems may, be there and he shouldn't run. We don't see it or whatever. And so Jake Tapper told him to his face, Biden targeted you. The sources say Biden targeted you to convince you that he was okay. So there was an effort from he and his aides to target you specifically. Well, they succeeded, didn't they?
Yep.
And it's just, it coming out about, the 5 people as part of the group, the Gang of 5, the cabal, whatever, that was all together. They were the ones that all decided. There was that story. There was like a board of directors of 5 people. Biden was apparently the 6th.
Right.
And they were all like, he was like a senior member of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that one because what you're saying is he didn't make all he may have made some of the decisions, but he didn't make all the decisions.
Right.
How did you do it as a board of directors? Was it a vote? 5-3? Biden just got 1 vote out of the 5 or 6, whatever it was.
Right.
They didn't clarify, that one at all, which is like, wow.
Yeah. The Pentaveret.
The accusations of a shadow government are blunt right now, and nobody is debating that it's not true. Except Hakeem Jeffries tried.
This is and Jeffries and Schumer basically have to hold the line here. They can't. They just have to deny because of where they are. The moment Schumer retires, we'll probably hear something different. The tone will change definitely. But when you see this, as I've been saying, if there is any case for puppeteering here, or any case ever in the history, it's here, right now, with Biden.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, this is getting pretty interesting.
Yeah? What do you got?
I had missed this the other day. I pay attention to Mark Halperin's podcast that he does. He had on Ed Martin, who is the incoming Department of Justice pardon attorney and director of the Department of Justice's Weaponization Working Group. And the Blaze had this. It's based on the podcast that Halperin did. But he announced, as we know, last week he was looking into the questionable auto pen pardons issued in the final days of the Biden White House. It turns out, however, he began digging into the matter while still the interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. He revealed on Tuesday that his investigation into the use of the auto pen has actually been underway for weeks, and that he's reached out to members of the Biden family, that some persons of interest have already lawyered up, and that a whistleblower has already come forward with some troubling allegations. Quote, this is what he told Mark Halperin. I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these 3 people who controlled access, and they were making money off of it. He said, and he also said after, I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process, and that's what we're doing. Martin indicated that the whistleblower was involved in the 2020 Biden campaign at the highest levels.
Wow, I have a name in mind who might fit that. And was also National Security Advisor. I'm not going to say Jake Sullivan.
Oh, you know who first came to my mind? Lindy Lee. but she wasn't. She was
a party
right
for the party, not the campaign.
Right. So. Exactly. So
but the one part right there. Again, assuming this is accurate and true, and we end up, learning anything from it beyond this. They got paid for the access. All right. So you know what this feels like? as more and more of this comes together. It's reminiscent of the Russian hoax and how wide the Russian hoax is. By the way, I do believe with all you and I know, and we've studied it and we've covered it from the beginning on the Russian hoax, that we're still just scratching the surface on that deal. With this, it's the same thing. The more you look into it, the more questions you ask. That's where we started on the Russian hoax. We just started asking questions. Well, why would this happen? Why would this go to this? And why would that? And then all of a sudden, other people were putting things together. John Solomon, Sarah A. Carter, back when they were at Circa News in spring of 2017. We're doing that with court documents, by the way. They had documentation on a number of things they were covering as a part of that entire thing. If indeed there is a whistleblower, you and I said, if there's going to be a tell-all, forget the book. I mean, the American people deserve the answers. Let's write the book as we go along ourselves. If there's going to be a tell-all, it has to come from the highest levels. It has to come from people who witness things in the room that they can also prove. Because for anything to be actionable, then it's going to have to come with something.
Well, what I want to know is more specifics. If there's 3 people that controlled access to Biden and use the auto pen, how did they make money? Because that was his point. They made lots of money on it. And he said, I don't know if I believe it or not on the whistleblower.
Right.
But this comes from a senior Democrat, which is probably, by the way, a great way to take it, because the last thing you want to do is be set up by a whistleblower or a fake whistleblower at this particular point.
Yeah, right.
Because it was interesting. He said, I don't know if I believe. He wasn't like, this whistleblower is good, but he said this is a senior Democrat, part of the 2020 Biden campaign, who said 3 people controlled basically the auto pen and access to the president. The other thing is, and this has been around for a week now from the book, it was like a board of directors, a group of 5 people, and Biden was just like a, senior member of the board, as if he got a vote, but everybody else got a vote too, and the majority wins. Well, that's not how it works out. It's like, okay, ignore the old guy, ignore the senile guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. We'll make the decision here.
Right.
That's the impression that I got out of that.
Right.
The other one was that, and this came out really, it had been out before, but it really came out strong yesterday, that there was a fear of Biden hearing any truthful news at all. Like when it came to the polls, they didn't want Biden to know that he was losing.
Right.
In the polls, that any bad news, no matter how small it was, they moved Biden out of the area where that was being talked about. He had to get out. He could not hear they didn't allow the president to hear what the truth was on a number of issues. Now, what those issues are, we don't know. But it was almost like across the board, whatever the truth was, this group of people kept him from doing it. Well, who were these group of people? Who made the decisions? Comer said yesterday, we're bringing in everybody, which means if he said you were bringing in everybody, my next question would be, you're bringing in Jill Biden to testify?
Right. You're bringing in Jake Sullivan. I mean, you said everybody.
You got to bring in everybody, right?
And,
under oath. And
Yep. And, you look at if it, in terms of making money for the access, well, we already know that about the Bidens. So the first names that come to mind are those that share the name Biden. Hunter.
Yeah.
And remember how close Hunter became to his dad, was out at the White House all the time, was always around. And we said then, when Hunter, was basically shadowing his dad, when that started, it looked like he was there to control things. At first, it looks like he's there trying to get his own cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they won't come after me if I'm hanging out with the president of the United States. Look at it with different glasses and remember who the Bidens are. They're all about profiteering from their power. So Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and others. So how do you make the money? All right. Possibilities include lobbyists who are willing to pay you. Pay those people, not pay the president directly. A foreign influence.
Oh, yeah.
And access.
That I understand. What I wonder is what mine was more specific, detailed. What was the exact executive order that would have made them money, which would be the next question I would ask if I was, what's his name? I can't think of his name. I just got mind black hair from the guy who's the head of the weaponization of government. And the auto pen pardon attorney looking into it saying, did Biden really pardon these 1,400 people? Did he actually do it? Or did other members just use the auto pen to do it? Other his advisors do it? I just want to know specifically, because that'd be the question I would ask the whistleblower. What are you talking about? How did they make money? You said these people around him made money off using the auto pen. On what issue specifically? I know the generalities. It could be foreign, could be lobbyists, could be corporations, whatever. I just want to know what specific it was.
Well, I'm laying it out because I'm thinking, how many moves are we talking about? And at what levels? It could be on every single level. The cash cow could be from anybody and everybody willing to pay. And so you look at that and you line that up in a it becomes especially concerning on so many levels. But I think about what Speaker Johnson said about having a meeting with him and then, issuing a concern about something that he signed that this would be Mike Johnson meeting with then President Joe Biden saying, that issuing a concern over a bill he signed, and then Biden replying, I didn't sign that. The question would be, was that a lapse in cognitive function, or the fact that it was an auto pen move on that bill?
I don't like going here because this is speculation, but cash for pardons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
1,400. What, in the last month? You think Biden personally looked at 1,400 cases and decided to pardon them?
I don't believe that.
We asked that question back then.
Yeah, right.
Do you believe Biden actually did that? It's the same thing as when we talked about the Iraq attacks on Hezbollah and other organizations in Iraq at that point, and you and I said, you think Biden actually knew what was going on? And then the story that came out yesterday where Kayleigh McEnany said, the whole thing and we accused Biden of lying, that Biden lied about what the generals told him about Iraq. Every single general told him, you stay in Iraq. It'd be a disaster if you leave Afghanistan. It'd be a disaster if you leave Afghanistan. You need to have 2,500 people in there, 2,500 troops, and keep the airport. You need to do that. You cannot do it, otherwise it'd be a mess. And he came out publicly and said numerous times, every general told me, and especially I think it was with Stephanopoulos, said absolutely not. The generals told me that to get out completely. Then the generals testified and said no. And Kayleigh McEnany brought up a great point. She said maybe he wasn't lying.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Maybe he just had no idea.
Because Mike Johnson said after that meeting, he didn't. I don't think he was lying to me that he didn't remember.
Right.
Or that he didn't, he believes he didn't sign it. So is it that he didn't remember it?
Either way is bad.
Either way doesn't work.
Because the question would be, was aides and advisors in that room when the generals were telling him absolutely not, don't pull out. And he forgot he had that advice.
Yeah.
and his aides around him who didn't want him to have any negative news and wanted their policy to get out of Afghanistan. It was their policy. They all wanted it. They all wanted out.
And if he's got cognitive issues, those closest advisors, are they reprogramming his brain, telling him he did something that he didn't do?
Here's another one. When we sat there, we can't believe the president isn't taking a stronger stance on anti-Semitism. Is that because all of that came from his staff?
Right.
That he really had nothing to do with it?
Right.
That they convinced him in another way that, whatever, however you do it.
Right.
To somebody who has very bad cognitive problems, that anti-Semitism is actually a good thing?
Right.
Look, everything is open now.
It is.
The book blew everything. You guys are just purely speculating. Yeah, based on what the book says, that nobody is debating, that there were a group of people that were making the decisions, not Biden.
We're asking questions.
Yeah. How far does it go?
You have to ask, if you're going to do an investigation, you have to ask all the questions we're asking and more.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. That'd be a fascinating stage, and of course, when I talking about it, when Comer and the House Oversight Committee, if they bring in all of the aides for Biden on this, you can't sit there and there's very little criticism of it, because this is a book that was created by Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's was on MSNBC yesterday.
Yeah,
was on MSNBC telling Joe Scarborough, Biden specifically targeted you because he believed that he could convince you that everything was okay, and that's exactly what happened, to the point where he came out. Joe Scarborough, when he said that, was looked as one of the biggest fools ever in the media.
Yeah.
He was almost at that point like the Iraqi foreign minister.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Baghdad Bob. Yeah.
Nothing's going on here. We're
tank.
winning the war, and there's like explosions all around
Tanks
him.
in the background.
It's like
American flags everywhere.
I mean, Joe Scarborough came out. I mean, seriously, was there ever have you ever seen a worse moment?
No.
Remember when, and if people don't remember it, he came out and said, "This is the best Joe Biden there's ever been."
Yeah.
When it was the height of people starting to all Republicans and independents, the majority of America knew it.
Yeah.
The majority of America knew it, and he's out there saying, this is the best Biden there's ever been.
Right.
And you can't handle the...
Yeah. F you if you can't handle the truth.
If you can't handle the truth.
Right.
I mean, it was almost as if, how much acid did you drop?
Right. Well,
I guess, what's the drug of today that maybe you get hallucinogens from?
I think it's mushrooms.
I'd say fentanyl, but I don't even want to joke about it.
I don't know what the kids are doing. It's organic, I know that. But fair trade.
And gluten-free.
Gluten-free and fair trade.
Yeah, I take drugs, but it's gluten-free.
And locally sourced.
It's locally sourced. Union made.
Union made.
Did you see the one in... I got to find the story. Thank you for reminding me. It came out of Oregon that they had passed a bill saying that anybody who made pot, whatever,
has to have a union.
They couldn't object to any union. They could not take a stand. They had to be neutral. So basically, all the pot the pot companies, remember, and they're all supposed to be small business people, would have to be unionized.
Right.
Well, they were like, we can't afford to do that with all the cost involved in it. And I'm like, wow.
They're going to make
the pot people are anti-union?
Right.
Hey, dude, sorry, man.
Hey, man.
I'm not in for organizing at all, man.
Because if I have to stand up and picket, man, it's going to be a problem.
well, it was
Can
more.
I picket from here?
No,
man?
I think the unions wanted it. The management didn't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be. I don't know if that would be more pathetic than what I saw at the Starbucks
Where they were sitting down.
picket line one time.
Yeah.
On North French and Transit Road in East Amherst, New York, going back a few years ago.
Right.
And it's all these, it looked like they were all sitting at an outside table at Starbucks with their picket signs, drinking coffee.
Well, by the way, I saw the same thing at a Starbucks just blocks from here. I pulled it. It was a Saturday morning. First of all, it's a Saturday morning. And then they all get up from the tables outside as I'm pulling in. Basically, I guess every car that pulls in through the drive-thru, they wanted to go and put their signs in front of or whatever. They weren't blocking me or anything. They just wanted to make sure I saw their signs. But then they had this banner, which I thought was just draped over the back of the car. It was on a car, right? And then I noticed as I'm coming around, the bigger part of the banner went on the side of the car, which is in a parking space, which when another car parks next to it, the biggest part of the banner is blocked.
Look, if you're going to have any type of legitimate picket line, you got to have those fires inside the barrels.
Yes. Well, come on.
Right?
Get some of us real working class people from back in the day. We saw picket lines or were part of picket lines, you know. We'll show you how to do a picket line.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We'll show you how
We'll show you, you young punks. With our cigars and everything, yeah.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I want to find that story that I found that I saw from Oregon yesterday. It just caught my eye because it was about the weed business and trying to organize and have a labor union there. Which again, a ton of different jokes can be found.
Yeah, right.
In there, one of the things that happened yesterday. We looked the president of South Africa in, and the got a dressing down from the president. They lowered the lights and played the number of politicians talking about killing white farmers. Now, if you've been paying attention to what's been going on in South Africa for any time, this has been something that's been going on for years. This isn't recent.
Yeah,
allowing, I think it was 56 to claim asylum and come into the country, it was really amazing to watch the Democrats in Congress. You're only doing this because of white people. Well, go ahead and bring up, make your case for other immigrants that should legally be able to come here.
Yeah, right.
If you wish to make that case, but what Trump did yesterday, this is just not about that. I view South Africa. Don't know if you want to call them an enemy of the United States. They are not an ally of the United States. On one hand, they talk about wanting free trade and no tariffs and everything else. But they have an extremely close relationship with China and a very close relationship with Iran. And so what Trump did yesterday was bigger than just the refugee problem or the farmer problem. It was, I believe, setting the table. I'm reading here, New York Post in an article, Trump's warm welcome for white refugees was a diplomatic shot across South Africa's bow, and they actually go into the specifics of what, if you've been paying attention, what has gone on in South Africa. It is true, and they said the real story. He goes, the farmer issue is just the opening act. The real story and the real threat to U.S. national security is what the president's government of South Africa is going to do on the global stage. South Africa wants tariff-free trade, American investment, and expanded commercial ties, yet under the leadership of the president of Africa's African National Congress, it is actively aligning itself with the very regimes the United States is working to contain. That game of two-faced diplomacy can no longer stand. South Africa isn't an innocent neutral party. It's playing both sides, courting the West while deepening its ties to China, Russia, and Iran. Its leaders speak in the language of non-alignment, but their actions tell a different story. They've welcomed Hamas and Hezbollah officials, hosted sanctioned Russian warships, and worked with entities tied to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. South Africa's second largest telecom company still owns nearly half of Iran's second largest telecom company, a joint venture with direct links to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Perhaps that's why Trump's February order specifically called out how South Africa is reinvigorating its relations with Iran to develop commercial, military, and nuclear arrangements. And they talk about how the ties to Iran deepened under the current president's, goals in South Africa. But the fact is, don't be mistaken, this just isn't about white farmers. I believe, and I agree with the New York Post here, I think it's the president setting the table, number one, to bring something out like this to cause outrage, and at the same time get Democrats to look like complete fools.
Right.
You're only doing it because they're white. You only want white. It's the whole racism thing that nobody buys.
Right.
But if you look at it, it's actually a much bigger picture about the fact that they're not a friend of the United States.
Right.
They want the benefits of the United States, but they align too closely with ideologies that can never be accepted by the United States of America.
Right. And that's, if South Africa's president thought he was going to walk in and it was just going to be this, handshake and smiles and everything else. When I saw it, it was refreshing. What I saw was exactly what the New York Post and you agree with lined out here, and that's the president setting the tone. That's one thing this president clearly is not afraid to do. Set the tone right in front of everybody. In fact, having that printed material that he had and handing it to the president of South Africa was one of those moves, because that man, when that was going on, you could hear the shutters in the room go, it's like, okay, that's when all the photos were being taken, the still shots were being taken. That's one of those moments that says a lot. What it says is, you can come here thinking you're going to just redesign everything and get away with everything, and you need to understand who this administration is and who I am as president. That's how I took it yesterday. I don't think it's one single issue.
When you looked at the first Trump administration, I can still remember a good friend of mine recently passed away, but great listener to this radio show, to our radio show, the most loyal Trump supporter you could possibly find. And it was in April of 2020. And she just left me a message. She's screaming, Trump's got to shut up. He's going to lose the election because of him, of the COVID hearings that he was having. And one of the things that if you want Trump to succeed, you were always concerned about was, is he out there too much?
Yeah.
It's days like yesterday where you say, no, he's not.
Right.
Some days it's like, okay, have we seen too much of him today? Is it a burnout? But when you see the thing that's being promoted is, we're transparent. We're transparent. You may not like to see us every day, but we're transparent. And I have to, as somebody like you, and maybe many of our listeners, who you just absorb it so much, where what might affect you does not affect the average consumer of news.
Yeah.
And I think that the average consumer of news looks at the president, and they're always talking about, he's transparent, he's transparent, he's transparent. You might not agree with him, but he's out there every day, he's out there every day, he's out there every day. And then juxtapose that with the Biden administration.
Or
and
they
I
were
think,
hiding him.
Right. And then everything that's going on now about he's being controlled by someone else.
Yeah. Well, remember they were sending him out a different exit when he was getting on Marine One.
Yeah.
They sent him out a different door away from the media.
And so the media will look at it and say, well, J.D. Vance didn't agree with the president, and so they're snipping back. They want to focus on that, the media, with the American public, that may not be, like I said, they don't do what we do. They're not going through 1,000 pieces of audio and video a day, analyzing everything that went on Washington. They may see a few cuts here or there as they go about their day because they don't do this for a living.
Right.
And they're looking at it going, oh, this guy's out there all the time promoting stuff that sounds pretty good to me. I don't like everything, but they're out there. They're not afraid to get out there and promote what they believe. They're not hiding. And the media starts nitpicking. Well, what do I care if somebody in the cabinet there says, well, Mr. President, what do I care if there's a little back and forth where there may be a little bit of disagreement? That's what happens in normal business and in normal life. People discuss things. He's discussing things. The cabinet thing, and this can be part of the fact of looking the first administration, where I do believe he was overexposing himself because it was himself that was out there that was doing it. Now it's a group of people. It's his aides. It'll be Vance will be with him, or somebody else will be with him. A member of Congress will be with him. He's always having discussions, and I think that is so unusual. And you juxtapose that with the Biden administration, I think Trump may be onto something here.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to overexpose myself if I'm discussing the things not if I'm ranting and raving all the time.
Right.
He still does that on X. But when I'm with all these people and we're discussing things back and forth, but I thought what happened yesterday was really, really impactful.
I do too. And again, it was clear. One of those things is, you saw from like the Washington Post, the liberal activist media, it was, the meeting devolved into, it was planned. The president had that printed material with him. He had the videos ready. That was strategy as to what we're going to accept from South Africa and what we're not. It's also strategy for other nations, depending on, who they are, but really it would apply across the board. I mean, we're obviously not going to be inviting North Korea to the White House anytime soon, but it would apply to any nation that's going to show up and have a sit-down photo op with the president, all the media right there in the room, as you mentioned, the transparency of it all. And it sets the tone of things that we will accept and won't accept. I go back to things that were said about other nations in Europe, Germany, and other nations. I think this applies to Canada. What I'd be focusing on Canada, not the 51st state thing, is if there is a threat of people going to jail for what they say, and this is important, especially as we come upon Memorial Day weekend. We have had countless lives that were given, that were lost in order to maintain freedom, which includes free speech, the First Amendment. That is one of our core values. And if you don't share that core value, we're going to have some conversations.
Well, I mean, and that should be had with Great Britain.
Yep.
It should be had with Canada. I mean, the closest allies are the ones you want to do it.
Exactly.
By the way, have there been secret talks between the Trump administration and Canada to lower the level of the rhetoric? Because yesterday, Carney said that they wish to be part of the Golden Dome with the United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about that, though.
And
when you're the northern neighbor,
that's a prime minister of Canada,
right? When you're the by the way, when you said it for a split second, I thought Jay Carney, because we were talking about him the other day. But he's Carney in Canada is still kind of new, but when you're the northern neighbor to the strongest country in the world, and we announced the Golden Dome thing. I mean, you've got to. I think there was probably conversations when Carney was here. I think it's probably been going on since he won. And that is, you can have your differences and use them politically however you want to in public. But when it comes to the real conversations to be had of the things that actually matter, then Canada knows they need the United States, especially when it comes to things like national defense. You need the United States as an ally.
Carney says Canada and the U.S. are in high-level talks on the Golden Dome defense. And at that point, I went, you notice how the White House has been very mellow on their rhetoric towards Canada the last couple of weeks? Mm-hmm. I wonder if everything is changing.
Right.
Because that caught me off guard yet. When I saw that headline, I'm like,
yeah.
Is this a Babylon Bee headline? Am I reading this as
well?
And if it is a Babylon Bee headline, I don't understand it.
Right. By the way, Jim Carafano, probably one of the greatest national security experts over at the Heritage Foundation, he about 24 hours ago, he put out on X, that the Heritage Foundation has been asking for this for a long, long time in terms of the Golden Dome thing, and so for this to come to fruition, for those who have been talking about it for a long, long time, is greatly satisfying and is necessary, of course, which is why they've been pushing for it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More on the U.S. and the Golden Dome in that story yesterday that came out that Canada is in high-level talks about joining the proposed the Golden Dome with the United States, the Golden Dome Defense Shield. That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Because I'm telling you right now, you notice that the rhetoric over the last few weeks with Canada is gone. There's nothing.
Yep.
You don't hear anything.
Right.
Since the Prime Minister was there. If they're discussing the Golden Dome, if there's high-level talks for the Golden Dome, they're working on a trade deal.
Well, what did I say the other day? Because people don't always put the two together, but I've been saying it since the beginning. Trade is national defense.
Yeah.
So, and vice versa.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here, as always. And this is interesting. And there's so much stuff out there. This from the New York Post. A Washington socialite and journalist accused former First Lady Jill Biden of elder abuse in an explosive new interview after former President Biden was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. Sally Quinn, a D.C. insider and longtime columnist for the Washington Post, took aim at the former First Lady during a wide-ranging interview with journalist Tara Palmieri. On Wednesday, she accused Jill Biden of pushing him to run for re-election despite his apparent cognitive decline. I blame Jill Biden for this. Jill Biden is his wife, and if Jill Biden had stood up and gone to him and said, "Joe, you can't do it," he would not have run, Quinn said. She clearly was in favor of his running, and I just think it was a terrible disservice to him and this country. Quinn described feeling aghast by how Jill Biden continued to push ahead and rally support for her husband's presidential campaign immediately after the hideous June 2024 presidential debate, which sparked debate over whether Biden was fit to serve another 4 years. She wasn't protecting him. I thought it was elder abuse. Really? Quinn, who has dined... It's like this.
Yeah.
As your obituary. Quinn, who has dined with the Washington establishment for decades...
He ate with them.
She.
I'm sorry. She ate with them.
Well, I don't know. I haven't asked her. I apologize.
Yeah,
I didn't ask.
That's what I was assuming.
Right.
So.
I just love that. Quinn, who has dined. Hold it. You have to read it correctly. Quinn, who has dined with the Washington establishment for decades.
Yeah, you have to pause for the Washington establishment, not like your mediocre establishment.
A lovey. Where's a lovey?
The Washington establishment does not eat ketchup. Let's make it clear.
I'd rather be doing the show here in Texas and be called a Texas hick all day.
Well, it's
the two hicks from Texas
so
overnight,
funny.
guys.
That's so funny because as you're saying that, I'm picturing myself sitting down at the Washington establishment table and saying, "Hey, y'all, when's the buffet open?"
Gary and Eric dined with the Washington establishment today.
Y'all ever had Golden Corral? One big trough. It's just and a chocolate fountain. Yeah.
I've only eaten at Golden Corral once in my entire life.
Oh, I've eaten there plenty of times.
Yeah,
I have children.
Well, then I
I had children. You want to get full? Let's go.
I ate there with a good friend of mine one time. She'd been in there, and she just said, no. She goes, I said, well, are the portions big? She goes, you decide the portions. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah.
I went in there, I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, I mean, small town buffet.
Oh, I'm telling you. I mean, I could take enough carbs and sugar in to die of type 2 diabetes in one day, one serving.
Yeah. There's a fountain of chocolate.
I know.
It's a fountain. Now, you're not supposed to dip your lobster in it. I didn't know that. I brought my own lobster, in case you're wondering.
Now, did she dine at, because it's not there anymore from what I'm told, Duke Zebert's?
When I
remember Larry came?
Duke
Zebert's.
I was in the Rat Pack.
You know the funniest thing is?
By the way, we loved Larry King. Yeah. It's great. Just having fun.
One of the reasons that I got into talk radio, the reasons I always thought about it was because when I was working third shift at the steel plant, and I'll never forget, it was when Larry King interviewed Phyllis Diller. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever heard. She was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And I went, and this was like 80, 81 maybe.
Yeah.
It's probably 81. I remember thinking, wow, this talk thing is really, sort of cool. I was working third shift at the steel plant. I'd been in radio for a very short time beforehand, and the paycheck was so low that
yeah,
it was really low. How much did I make in my first radio job? You ready?
What?
$125 a week. My first radio, and that was 78.
Okay, I was 84, right out of high school. I was making less than $200 a week because I got a raise to go to the FM from the AM. It was AM-FM combo. I went to the FM, and they upped my pay when I did that the following spring in May of 85. Wow, 40 years ago this month.
I remember after being in radio,
$200 a week.
After being in radio 4 years. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. 4.5 years.
Yeah.
I got and I actually took the job, and I ended up becoming station manager and everything, and it really is what got my career going. But when I first applied, I was making more money club DJing, but I went and they offered me a job at this one radio station, and the minimum wage was $4 an hour. And they said, but you have experience and you're really good, so we'll pay you $4.10 an hour.
Ah.
So
you must have been really good.
Because that was $4 extra a week, and I blew that on women, booze, and drugs. The $4.
Right.
So I was completely sober.
How much did those women have to drink to be around you?
I'm going to say I was completely sober.
That sounds like a lot of money.
And alone at night with that after I spent that $4. It really didn't accomplish anything. That's a true story, though. That's a true story. That was I'll never forget. That was the interview when they said, and I got the question, why do you want to work here? I said, I need the money. No, but why do you choose to do this? Because I like it and I need the money. Mm-hmm. But isn't there anything deeper than that?
No. Anything deeper than money?
I said, no, there's nothing deeper. I like it. And I never knew where he was going.
Yeah.
By the way, he became one of the biggest fans of the show, of Red Eye, just so you know that.
Oh, so. All right.
But, that was... It's like, I remember asking, I actually said this during the interview process, are you looking at some human relations handbook? I asked the guy's trying to. I got so frustrated. It was like, I got to ask, are you looking at a human relations handbook or something? These are the questions you ask. You need to get deeper into the point of why somebody wants the job. And if they answer that they need the money and they like the work, that isn't enough. There needs to be a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
Or a deeper narrative or whatever it was. I never understood that. But, so Quinn, this all came from reading the story of Jill Biden accused of elder abuse by the Washington Post columnist. And when we got to the line, her name is Sally Quinn. Sally Quinn, who has dined with the Washington establishment for decades, said Biden's apparent worsening health was an open secret among the Washington elite. Are they the only ones that knew it? Who were worried about Biden's ability to handle another 4 years in the Oval Office. Everybody thought he shouldn't run. People were just distraught that he was running and terrible for the party. I think everyone was horrified that he was put into a position where he was allowed to run by his staff and his wife. People felt sorry for him, but still it was his egotistical decision to stay in office, and look what happened.
Yep.
She was married to Ben Bradley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Washington Post editor for years.
Right. Yeah.
During Watergate. Remember the great scene? Oh, I can't think of the actor who portrayed him. The great scene outside was in Ben Bradley's house.
Yeah.
And both reporters were there.
Yeah.
Bernstein and Robert Redford.
I was going to say, Robert Redford was such a great reporter.
And and it was like, go home, take a shower. It's not like the First Amendment is at stake or anything. And get on this case. But that was,
democracy dies in stupidity.
Somebody's going to tell me, you idiot, it was Woodward and Bernstein, not Bernstein.
It was Redford. I saw it.
Not Bernstein and Woodward.
I saw it with my own eyes. Don't tell me what I didn't see.
Robert Redford.
Journalist Robert Redford. By the way, is there much of a difference between the modern journalist and the modern actor? In today's world, same thing. They're not journalists. They're
like the end of the article. Jill Biden's office did not return a request for comment on Sally Quinn's interview.
Yeah, I bet not.
Well, do we have? No, we'll play it in a couple seconds here.
All right.
And this is Mark Halperin going after Joe Scarborough, saying, "You knew it." No, I didn't. I didn't see that part. He goes, "No, you saw the way he was in public."
Yeah, right.
We'll see how that goes. I didn't know Dr. Drew has prostate cancer.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. He said, I've helped patients with prostate cancer for 40 years, have caught early. It's very treatable. So this story about doctors finding a nodule and suddenly President Biden has the metastatic disease, it doesn't pass a sniff test. That's directly from Dr. Drew, and he posted audio of it. Also, it's interesting, Harold Ford, which I can't believe he's 55. I remember when he first, because he would have been, it's like 30 years ago when he first ran for Congress. He was a kid.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the young guns.
Yeah, I remember as a well, he wasn't a young gun because he was a Democrat. So, but he's talking about all the hearings that went on this week where the Democrats are just screaming, "You're doing this illegal." He just said, "What a waste of time." He goes, "There are actually questions you can ask Republicans.
Yeah.
If you're cutting here, what are you actually doing?
Right.
Explain to me." With Robert Kennedy,
Well,
if you're doing this and cutting money here, he said, how does it make a person healthier, or how does it make this group healthier, or whatever? He goes, you could ask specific questions. He goes, but they just scream. He said, my 10-year-old or whatever, my 10-year-old's birthday party had more sanity to it than that. He goes, they just won't. He said, if you can ask the good questions of substance, do it. It has more impact. He goes, but they won't do it.
Well, he's no longer a modern Democrat. He doesn't understand where the party is.
Yeah.
It's all about screaming and having fits.
You're right, though.
Not about asking questions that actually pertain to it.
So we got that, like I said, tons of audio cut, and just we can't get through everything.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Yeah.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. All right, audio cuts. We got a ton to play between now and tomorrow, and there'll be more added, I'm sure. With the budget bill, which looks like it's probably going to pass. And I'm telling you this, everywhere I go on social media, when you have Republican Congress people promoting and saying, this is such a great deal for everybody, they're being criticized consistently by conservatives for the debt it's racking up.
Yep.
I was like, wow.
Yep.
I was amazed the number of people, especially after the polling that CNN had, that said Republicans don't care about the debt anymore. But here is this is completely different. We'll get to that coming up. But this is audio cut of Jake Tapper telling Morning Joe that Biden targeted him to convince Scarborough that he was fit for office. And we know that worked, didn't it?
Yep.
But here it is.
In your specific case, Joe, our reporting indicates that Joe Biden, who, as you know, is a frequent viewer of the show, saw when David Ignatius wrote that column in, I think, August 2023, saying that Joe Biden should not run for re-election because of what he had been hearing.
Right.
And he came on this show, and you guys had a robust conversation about this. You largely agreed that you'd been hearing things about this, but that there was really no alternative, that Kamala Harris was not up to the job. That's what Democrats were telling you behind the scenes. Joe Biden saw that. Joe Biden said to staffers that he wanted to convince you that you were wrong. And he focused on you like you were a constituency, like you were farmers in Iowa, like you were the Kiwanis Club in New Hampshire. And he made sure that you thought differently. He made sure that you thought differently. I think he did this with a couple people. I think he did it with Meacham. He might have done it with Evan Osnos. He knew that there were people that had to be convinced that he was fine. And he tried to prove that to you.
Which he did based on the fact that by what was that, February, April, May of 24, where Scarborough said that?
Yeah.
This is the best Joe Biden out there?
Right.
And we'll get to the audio. It's a little bit longer with Mark Halperin challenging him on that. Well, I really didn't see it. Because of course you did.
Yeah.
So, but I want to play this audio cut here. I was like, wow, this one had to really tick off liberals yesterday. This was the University of Florida basketball head coach, national champions that were there at the White House. All right?
Yeah.
Now, remember, no college is supposed to go and visit Trump at the White House.
Right.
You can't do that.
Nope.
Right? That's out of bounds. You can't do it. Listen to this.
All year, we wouldn't be here. So thank you all very much. Mr. President, I like to think of our program similarly to how you think of the United States. We're a meritocracy. All right, we work really, really hard no matter what you look like or where you come from. If you put the team first and win, we're going to play you. And we have a program full of that, guys that have great attitudes, great work ethics, most importantly, want to be at the University of Florida.
Wow.
Todd Golden, that is University of Florida head basketball coach. I know I heard it too, and I went. Yeah. All I could think of, it's got to be driving liberals nuts when they hear that. Just absolutely.
Calling for his resignation?
Yes, that'll come out next.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, should we check the headlines? Any breaking news on him having to resign? It's again, what you can say and what you can't say, but we see more evidence, though, especially over the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years, of a number of people being very unafraid to say, what's at their core, and who they are. This is one more example, but good. I love it, especially if it drives the liberals crazy.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just looking here. Okay, I guess they haven't voted for the bill yet. They could vote for it at any time. I think they're still in session, aren't they?
I think they are. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a marathon session. It's
amazing how little news there is on...
let's see here. I was looking for an update earlier.
They said there's dozens of changes. I have no idea what the score of this is when it comes to the debt, and I don't know how they know it if they did it, if they added dozens of changes.
Yeah,
and I guess they're just going to score it later.
Yeah,
after it's done. So
right.
We'll see on it, and when there's a vote, we'll let you know. But it looks like it's going to pass. I know Chip Roy did not vote for it. He didn't vote at all.
Right.
He just didn't vote. So,
right. Yeah.
We'll see where it goes from there. All right. I want to make sure we just got tons of audio we want to play. This is Mark Halperin talking to Joe Scarborough. And, when Joe Scarborough said, this is the best version of Biden you're going to get. And if you can't handle it, F you.
F you if you can't handle it.
Because this is the best Biden ever.
I'm going to tell you the truth, and F you if you can't handle the truth.
And here it is. Here's some of the, and they start with that. They're starting with the fact where he said this is the best Biden ever. Halperin hits him on that first. Here we go.
Looking back at that, do you say, well, it was misleading to say best Biden ever without caveating it and say, except on the days when he's not the best Biden ever?
Well, but I never saw those days personally.
Well, you did, because you saw him address a dead congresswoman, and you saw him in South Carolina.
A dead congresswoman, yeah.
Yeah, well, more than that. I mean, I can show you the RNC clip reels. There were plenty of days in public when he was not the best Biden ever, and of course, shortly after,
he stumbled and bumbled around. Mark, I mean, yeah, he certainly did. Donald Trump did. Other politicians did. It's actually the same case as a lot of times when I've gone in and talked to Donald Trump. We've gone to Donald Trump, and I've heard the media narrative around Donald Trump, and certainly I've been very critical of Donald Trump. And when I leave, I have a better understanding, just like Jeffrey Goldberg did a couple of weeks ago, I have a better understanding of where Donald Trump is mentally, if Donald Trump is losing it, like, people have said through the years or not. And so again, am I going to look at a clip that's going viral and pay more attention to that than 2.5, 3 hours I had with a guy one-on-one, going around the world? No, I'm just not going to. Are some of the clips bad? Yeah, they certainly are bad. I can understand why people would see that without the context and say that there was a problem with that, especially because I said, start rolling your tape right here. It's like, but when I look at that tape, based on what I saw with Biden, based on the time that I spent with Biden, based on the hundreds of hours that I talked to people who talked to Biden and people that worked with Biden, and were with him day in and day out, good friends that I know that I trusted before Biden was president, that I trust now that Biden's not president. I mean, put in the proper context, I'm just not going to freak out and melt down on one or two clips here or there. And again, he bumbled around and he stumbled around, but he has for quite some time. That didn't seem to me to get in the way of Joe Biden being able to analyze the most important issues. And I certainly think he has a better grasp on it than probably the overwhelming majority of his critics, or certainly did when I spoke with him. But again, the question is, who is somebody else running the government for him? Is he incapable of running meetings? I've never talked to anybody that has said Joe Biden's not capable of running meetings. The complaint that I've heard, not only from, and I hope people are still listening to me because it is important. The only complaints I've heard about Biden internally was that he was angry. He would often get angry.
Okay, as we all know, he's lying.
Yeah, of course.
The opposite is true. The book is closer than anything that Joe Scarborough is saying. Joe Scarborough's lying. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
We saw the fact that he couldn't answer questions.
Right.
Don't compare Donald Trump. I mean, that's you're getting the biggest load of bull manure ever when they start trying to compare him to, once in a while, Trump slips up too, as if Trump is somehow having the same cognitive problems that Joe Biden has. Trump will sit there and, he was hesitating after taking questions and being up for 20 hours, meeting with 50 different people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Biden, all he did all day was come out, give a 30-second speech, turn around and would answer no questions whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then when he did, was not coherent on it. It's a complete difference. Joe Scarborough is lying. We all know it.
Yep.
Everybody knows it.
Well, it's, again,
and by the way, he didn't go after Jake Tapper when Jake Tapper said he looked at you because he knew he could convince you.
Right. Yeah.
Biden looked at you and said, the Biden administration looked at you and said, we got to convince him that everything is fine with me, and they succeeded in doing it. And you came off, Joe Scarborough, looking like a complete, utter moron, fool when you said this is the best Biden ever.
Right. Well, in the grandstanding, I'm going to tell you the truth, and F you if you can't handle the truth. Yeah. All right. Calm down, Francis. Lighten up.
But we all know he's lying.
Well, he is lying, and by the way, on something like that, that was the thing that really, and he was doing it to make this statement thinking, I'll get everybody's attention. You did. You did, Joe. You got everybody's attention as to how foolish you are. If you want to issue a response, ask Mika what you can, in terms of my criticism of you, ask Mika what you're allowed to say, and then issue it. It really is embarrassing. And again, how do you not, if nothing else, this is the problem with this massive lack of self-awareness. Sebastian Maniscalco, stand-up comedian, had a special actually titled this, Aren't You Embarrassed? I mean, at the very least, don't you worry about being embarrassed when you do something so foolish? If Scarborough had gone through the whole thing and said, listen, I don't see what people are claiming that they see. When I'm around them, it doesn't look, I don't see it. But the grandstanding, I'm going to tell you the truth, and F you if you can't. Okay, now you're propping up the stage like you're some kind of giant and the authority. It works, by the way, also with Jake Tapper, who has been anointed the authority on Joe Biden's cognitive issues after wanting to fight people, including Laura Trump, for pointing those issues out.
I did see you apologize to her for that finally. Years later.
Yeah. Well, it's which is great, but it doesn't negate the very fact that Jake Tapper did it, because that's where you can apologize now, but that's where your heart is. Your heart is there.
Oh, of course it was.
You can't claim you're just now seeing it, and they were hiding it from us.
He's got to sell the book.
Well, it's the Jon Stewart bit the other night that we played.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Isn't the job of journalists to report what you're seeing right now?
Right now,
breaking news next week. I mean, it's the point we made that Jake Tapper, by his own, he said this. Jake Tapper. The day after the election, we started writing the book. The day after the election? Wow.
Here it is.
What a hero.
Lara Trump was right. I apologize to her. But there was context of both sides saying crazy things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything that's come out in Jake Tapper's book is probably mirrors anything that was said, including speculation from Republicans back in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024.
Yeah.
Right? Anything in his book?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his book is basically saying the sources in the White House tell him Biden was part of the board. He was just another member of the board of people. And he was like a senior board member of the 5 or 6. I'm not sure. They say because they're saying there was a cabal of 5. I don't know if he was included in that or whether he was the 6th. Yeah. So there was a group of people. I mean, they were pounding on that yesterday, Jake Tapper's book. Nobody has come out and said that's absolutely false.
Right.
So again, these are all everything here. None of this is Republican sources.
No.
It's Democrat sources.
Yep.
Including those writing the book.
Well, again, If Jake Tapper decides that he wants to be the authority on Joe Biden's cognitive issues and the covering up of those issues, then let him. Great. We hope many people will read the book. Because if the leftist media wants to take this on and be the authority on it, great. Because you can't go down that road without also looking at what actions as president were taken, and was it actually the then president in charge at that moment? Forget about just the cover-up. The cover-up must include any action taken by him. Mm-hmm. If he wasn't aware in moments, then you have to go in and scrutinize every single moment during that 4 years.
You know what it's like? It's like when they find out there's a dirty cop.
Yeah.
And so every single case that they ever did comes up for question.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Or a judge.
Mm-hmm.
Every single case has a possibility of being thrown out at that particular point.
I remember, I think a couple of times we covered it over the years, maybe a couple of stories like that. But I do remember for sure reading a number of stories and being aware of a number of situations just like that, where somebody in that, whatever it would be, whether it was the chain of custody of evidence or things like that. I mean, how did they build the doubt with the OJ thing? I mean, you're breaking the credibility, but if you go in and break a key figure's credibility like that, you have to question everything in a situation like that, whether it's a prosecutor, whether it's an officer, whether it's somebody in a lab or whatever it might be. Well, look at all the moving parts in a presidency. Look at all of the moving parts in a presidency. This is why I say that if and we don't know the Halperin thing on a possible whistleblower. All right, I don't know. I can't tell you, but
Halperin didn't say it.
Halperin didn't say it, but it was it was part of his podcasting. But I don't know. Again, I don't know. I can't tell you what I believe. What I believe is evidence. So what is required, that if there is a whistleblower, is going to have to come with some evidence. You're going to have to bring something to the table,
right? But
that shows something, in order to bring everything out into the open.
We all know he had cognitive problems.
Yeah.
Anybody who said he did was eviscerated and demonized.
Right.
Now you have Democrats stating, a Democrat writing a book, and all Democrat sources saying, no, it was all true.
Mm-hmm.
All you need now is the specifics. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? The show ends in an hour. And if you haven't been able to catch a lot of the show because you were sleeping, you can during the day on our Red Eye Radio app. It's so easy. Just download it, and within seconds, you can either listen to our podcast, or if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations live overnight, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app. Coming up following the top of the hour news, something we didn't get to yesterday, which was birthright citizenship and the constitutionality of it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.